The following are the words of Lou Civello, President of the Suffolk County Police Benevolent Association.
Police officers risk their lives to protect our communities and keep our streets safe. These officers are the thin blue line that stands between your family and the criminals that would do them harm. We are your neighbors, protecting your neighborhood. Hold the line. Support law enforcement. Stand with the Suffolk County PBA.
The following radio show is live, except for the announcement you're hearing right now.
Welcome back to Your Island Live with your host, Tom Schiliro, on 103.9 LI News Radio.
And once again, welcome back. Moving right along on our Tuesday edition. Actually, you know what's great about the first week in January? Because everything you do is the first time you're doing it in the brand new year, 2026. And we're all excited. So many things are going to be happening this year, politically, socially, mentally. I don't know. Everything is going to be happening. And this is our first show with the great president of the Suffolk County PBA, personal friend, a great friend of LI News Radio. Always good to have him on. I know he appreciates all of the feedback that we get on when he's on to find out what is going on inside of not just the PBA, but the police department, what our men and women are doing and so on. So this is the first appearance of 2026 of Lou Civello, president of Suffolk County PBA. Lou, how are you?
I'm doing great, Tom. Great to be here with you and kick off the new year with you and your audience.
Yeah, and we have a lot of goals. I know DA Ray Tierney. You know, the great thing about it is Ray Tierney follows you every other Tuesday. And it's always great because we piggyback a lot on what you say and how he's the application of that is happening in the prosecution of the bad people. That our police lock them up and they bring them to Ray. And Ray then puts together a case in order to prosecute and possibly separate them from the rest of us. Because we have some bad dudes in this county and so on. But let me start off with something good. It's our first show of the year. Last week, we had on Suffolk County Executive Ed Romaine. And Ed apologized to me. He said, Tom, I know I was supposed to come on at 12:35. But so I said, Ed, no problem. We go to 2 o'clock, so we put him on at the 1:35 segment. And he said, I was over at police headquarters, and I was honoring 2 police officers. One of them was a sergeant, I think one was a PO. And they did a water rescue. And he talked about that, and he talked about it with a little bit of an emotion. That and I talk about it with frustration, and that I want the people to know this stuff, and they need to know what our cops are doing. And, when you have elected officials like that, and I know you guys are very much involved, and you will be this year, to making sure that the right people get elected. And what gets me is that the right people for the PBA or for our men and women in uniform are the right people for Suffolk County. But what could you tell us about that little event that Ed went to?
Yeah, first, thanks to the county executive. He really does make sure that our officers get the credit that they so truly deserve, and he's always there to recognize the bravery and the sacrifice of our Suffolk County police officers. And in this case, over the holiday break, every parent's nightmare, 8-year-old child fell through the ice, and we had some officers just take some incredible action. 2 5th Precinct officers, Officer Andrew Torelli, Officer James Rizzo, and then Sergeant Michael Santillo working together to get out there to use a life ring and to crawl out there onto that ice to rescue that child. And without them and their quick actions, we would have had a terrible tragedy over the holiday season. And again, my hat's off to them. Incredible work.
But the ice, my understanding, according to Ed, the ice actually fell. First of all, I have to apologize because there was not enough publicity on this. I'm sorry. Because if I didn't know about it, and I didn't, and I say that with a mea culpa, I didn't know about it. And usually I know about this stuff. You find it somewhere in some news blurb. I don't know if I stopped reading Newsday when they started attacking the police decades ago and so on. But there just wasn't enough publicity to this. But my understanding, according to Ed, is that that the officers were falling through the ice. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That ice was treacherous, and it was certainly an act of sheer bravery for them to crawl out into that ice and to do what they did to rescue that child. And you're right, Tom, it doesn't get enough publicity, and that's why what you do here on your show is such a great thing. And if your audience is looking for a deeper dive, we're actually going to have two of those officers on our podcast. They're actually going to come into the office today to tell the story themselves. They were reunited with the child afterwards, after he was brought to the hospital and checked out and safe and sound. So it's a great story. It is something, again, that I'm thankful for as a parent, that our officers are out there doing this work and keeping both our Suffolk County and children that live here safe.
Okay, folks, that's On Patrol with the Suffolk County PBA podcast. I believe Lou will correct me. I think you can find it on YouTube. I'm pretty sure you can find it on YouTube.
Yep, absolutely. Any of those platforms, YouTube, Spotify, you can go right to the PBA website, www.suffolkpba.org, and you'll find it there as well. So wherever you get your podcasts, we are on all those platforms. And again, it's like your show, Tom. It's one of the few places that you can go to really hear about what's happening in your own county, the place that you live, as far as law enforcement and your police.
And how important it is because of the negative publicity that's happening all over the country that makes people like you and I sick to our stomachs. I have to say that because it makes me feel better every once in a while. Which also brings me to the next thought I had. I watched the new mayor of New York City get inaugurated, and I watched his speech, and I watched all of that. And of course, what's going through my mind? He's taken over a budget of $118 billion. He's got 300,000 employees. I don't know. What is this New York City Police Department? Is it down to about 22,000? They're down about 10,000 cops. I don't know if you know that, what the exact number is. But what do you hear from your brothers and sisters in the New York City Police Department? Is there any trepidation with this guy? I don't trust him. I don't really think.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is a ton of trepidation and a ton of apprehension about what's going to occur as far as him taking over and running that city and running that police department. Some of the decisions that he had made right out of the gate, cutting back things, civilian review boards, etc., were disconcerting. And a lot of his rhetoric was particularly disconcerting when it came to the NYPD, calling them racist, saying that, that they couldn't be reformed and had to be dismantled, just over the top rhetoric. And, we'll see. I know that the police unions in New York City are certainly willing to do whatever it is that they can do to mitigate some of what this mayor is going to do, and hopefully convince him that the brave men and women of the NYPD need support. They don't need dismantling, and to dismantle them would be catastrophic for not only New York City, but really for New York State, because there is a great synergy between New York City. It really is the epicenter of the state, and the rest of us that live in the suburbs. So what happens there certainly affects us. And they're going to do everything they can if they have to fight and push and hold the line. I'm sure they will, and I'm sure they're going to keep the public educated about everything that this mayor does. Yeah. So they're kicking off the new year ready to go, and they're not going to give up that city without a fight. That's for sure.
That just it underscores also the fact of the work that you do with a PBA, a fraternal and union organization, and what New York City has to do. I remember a time where the PBA was. I mean, they were in trauma when I think there was two officers that were wounded or fighting for their lives, and they turned their backs on the mayor, de Blasio. I don't know if you remember that incident. And
yes.
They felt that he was not supporting them, and they came down. And that's got to be, the emotion of that. I try to remember that, and I remember watching that, and the emotion that goes there. First of all, we always talk about morale, but when you have to turn your back on the top person, the mayor of the city of New York, just like we have a county executive that goes to police headquarters to honor these officers that did what they did in the way in which you just described it, that took time out to do something like that. You had a mayor that has no support, and this goes back to the de Blasio days, that they felt that ill about him to turn their back on him. And that's, I don't know how else to say it, but how important is morale on the job, Lou Civello?
No, it's critical. And, I was at that wake when the New York City Police Department turned their back on de Blasio. And it really is a vote of no confidence when you have the mayor of the city and the police officers literally at a wake turn their backs on him. So it just shows that they have absolutely no faith in their leader at that point. And, demoralizing a police department is as bad as defunding it. You have to get up and put that uniform on and go out there and know that you're fighting for something, knowing that you're risking your life for something. And when you cripple that morale, you're crippling the police department at that point. So it really is a critical component of what we do. This is more than a job. It's a vocation. Yeah. It's something that you dedicate your life to. You're a police officer long beyond retirement. You'll see those retired police officers jumping into action when they need to. So when you basically destroy the morale in a police department, you are destroying proactive policing. You're destroying, our protectors. You are doing just untold damage and making, your city and your town much, much less safe by, preventing police from just doing their jobs, which is all we really want to do as police officers. So I'm hoping that, this mayor sees the light, and this mayor comes to realize that the NYPD is you don't have a city without the NYPD, and that those police officers need his support. He is the mayor. It is a democracy, and of course we want him to succeed, and we want the city to flourish. But I'm discouraged certainly from the rhetoric during the campaign. So we shall keep an open mind, and we'll be there to support our brothers and sisters over in the city in any way that we can.
Amen to that. I haven't heard too much yet about looking at the budget of this New York City PBA, but I did hear that he is going to create that unit. I don't know, his community, I don't know what he calls it, that they're going to possibly be dispatched by 911 calls where they feel that a police officer is not necessary, and most of them will be domestic calls, and that they will dispatch social workers there, and that the decision to do that will be up to the 911 operator. Again, you and I both know. I mean, you don't know the nature of a call based on a 911 call. You know that. And it's up to the responding officers to use situational awareness. And this is all cop talk that maybe the average person like Mandami doesn't seem to understand, and you would hope he'd be educated to it. So what happens is the social workers will respond. They'll get this up and running, I think, within 6 months. How else do I ask it? I mean, we've seen these situations. We know these situations. This is to the point where I fear for injuries to civilians, if not death.
Absolutely. It's a reckless policy. It's a failed policy. At this point, it has been tried and failed hopelessly. Like, as you stated, Tom, when you get these 911 calls, you're talking about a volatile, frantic situations where you're getting bits and pieces of information, some of which is accurate, some of which is incredibly inaccurate. How many times that I've gotten to a call that was supposed to be a routine call, and it starts off as a disturbance of some sort, and you get there, and it is a violent situation. And that's what you're sending these social workers into. You're sending them into disaster. You're sending them in to get hurt. That is a police function, to answer 911 calls. When somebody is desperate enough to call 911, that's an emergency. You need a trained, armed police officer to respond, even if it's something that may not seem routine, because these calls can be deceiving, and you're going to end up getting someone killed. I mean, why do we need to do this again and again and again? The policy at this point has been mocked because it was such a complete and utter failure. So why would you then repeat this policy where you're going to take police officers out of the situation and send social workers? Doesn't make any sense. If the police officer gets there, determines that the situation is safe, and then passes it off to a social worker, okay, that's maybe something we can talk about. Them responding in tandem, maybe that's something we can talk about. This idea that somebody over the phone getting, details, sometimes second and third hand, is going to decide whether it should be a police officer or a social worker, well, that's going to end again in tragedy.
Sadly enough. But I will say that I believe that program is going to be implemented. I do. He said it on a number of occasions. In fact, this first week that he had his executive orders and so on, he's already assigned, my understanding is an executive order to begin the implementation, the creation of this civilian board, and to hire the necessary social workers and so on. So I think that is going to come to fruition. And we'll certainly, those of us who care about the public, who care about law enforcement and so on, are going to be looking at that very, very clearly. beginning of January, which we're at. There's an agenda. I know we'll be talking to DA Ray Tierney about it to see what we can do in Albany. Do you have anything in mind, what you want? Does the PBA have any goals and objectives in mind for the political part of the job in terms of what can be passed and what can be eliminated? We got a lot that needs to be eliminated, too. Anything in mind, Lou?
I do. I mean, we finished last year strong. Right at the end of the clock, the governor signed 2 bills for us, which I spoke about briefly on your show last time, Tom, which was that bill that will cut property taxes in half for any of our line of duty widows.
Yeah.
If you lost a spouse in the line of duty, you're going to be eligible to get a property tax reduction. Another bill that she signed for us gives our peer counselors confidentiality, which will help with the mental health crisis that we have. As you know, in 2024, we lost 4 law enforcement officers to suicide. So remove some of the impediments that our officers can seek help and not worry about repercussions on the job. Going forward in 2026, we have a very ambitious agenda. And a lot of this is we've spoken about before, Tom, bail reform, getting it fixed, finally giving back that judicial discretion. 50A, restoring some of the sanity to that law to protect our police officers, to stop them from being doxxed. I'll tell you a quick story, Tom. One of my members over the holiday got a Christmas card from a perp that she wrote a ticket to at some point. Actually sent a Christmas card to her house, and we had to take quick action. Obviously very disconcerting, but that's how easy it is to find one of my members' addresses, home addresses, to put them in danger, to put their families in danger. That all comes back to 50A, needs to be corrected. And then some of these other, laws, raise the age, stopping some of the cop killers that have been allowed and let to go free, which is absolute insanity. So all of that is on our agenda. This is an election year. We're going to make the decision of who to support and who not to support. I can tell you, the governor invited me and other law enforcement officials to the State of the State. We will be there in just about a week or so to hear what she has to say, what her plan is for 2026. And then collectively, with my partners in law enforcement from across the state, we will come together and hopefully come to a decision on who we are going to support in this upcoming, statewide races, because we have to get some sanity restored. We have to change some of these laws. We have to protect the people of this state.
I think a change in governorship could move some of that, the 50A, the bail reform, all of that. And I think a governor could change that by making deals with the speaker and the majority leader. I just think the one-party rule, we've got some good Democrats, pro-law enforcement Democrats, we've got pro-law enforcement Republicans. You and I both know that. And you recognize that in who you support for the benefit of not just the PBA, but the benefit of the people of Suffolk County. But when you have the type of government that you have and that no movement has been made on at least the bail reform, which has been around since 2019, which is stymied the work of our great cops and what they're doing, then I think that would happen. And that's just a personal opinion of mine. I didn't mean to editorialize, but there's got to be, I'm sure you guys will be scrutinizing the words. You'll be probably taking notes up there with the State of the Union, State of the State by the governor when you're up there.
Yeah, certainly. She's made some overtures to us, but I will tell you, as of today, they have fallen far short of what needs to be done in this state, and there are just too many places, where the policies have been failed policies. And you have a real opponent now in Bruce Blakeman, and like I said, the jury's still out of what we're going to do collectively as law enforcement. But having a competitive race, that benefits everyone, because when you have one-party rule, when it's a coronation rather than an election, well, that is fertile ground for these failed policies. And I think that's how we ended up with a lot of this. So having a real election, having a discussion of the issues, having a competitive race, that's going to be important. And we're going to be taking a hard look at both candidates, both Bruce Blakeman and the current governor, Kathy Hochul, hear what they have to say, hear what their plans are. And we are going to make, the decision for what we think is best for our law enforcement officers and for the safety of the state.
And that's what we could really ask for when you think about it. And, there's going to be important decisions. We talk about this a lot on my program, that we have an important year. This is an extremely important year when it comes right to that. And what do you got? 20 seconds left. Are you optimistic?
Absolutely, very optimistic. I think it's going to be a great year. I think our police officers are doing a great job keeping this county safe, and hopefully we're going to make some strides statewide to make some changes, really, to make the whole state better.
Absolutely. Once again, amen to Lou Civello. Thank you so much, Lou. And we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. When we get back, we've got the district attorney, Ray Tierney. What? He's got some cases that he's been doing, so we're going to talk about that and his goals for the new year. Be right back.